Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people who do amazing things. And today I have my friend. Wait, so I love what it says on your Instagram. I try to copy it, but I'm gonna mess it up. But I know it. The artist, DJ. I was happy to see DJ on there. Graphic illustrator, animator. I didn't even know about the animator part, but basically you do a lot of stuff. And you're so cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to the Blackout Podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Okay, so like all these things you do, which one came first?
I would say like the visual art, like drawings like illustration based stuff, and music. I would say, even though I haven't DJed for very long, music has always kept me company and inspired my art too. Yeah.
And then like drawing, like was it like just, how you kids would draw and you never stopped?
Pretty much, like, it's actually funny. I didn't really complete a lot of art pieces until I got a lot older. I would start a lot of things and doodle a lot, but I never really started or finished very much unless it was like a school, like a art class project. So it was really just about self-expression and kind of healing, I guess, for the longest time. Yeah. Just like processing stuff I was going through or things I was seeing in the world or yeah.
Okay, so drawing. Like I mean I remember was it not a Kyber eye level? You had a talk, and I guess that's kind of where I realized how important like talking about mental health and taking care of yourself is. Like, when did that one start for you?
I would say probably around when I had my first art show. I started working at Alter Egos, actually, which is not far from where we're at right now, just on Gottingen Street. And I was encouraged to have an art show. So I finally started finishing things because I had a reason.
Yeah.
But then also because I had finished pieces, I became involved in more like social justice related like arts exhibitions and stuff. I became involved at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia too. So I used to lead classes there, but I started out actually a painting of mine, like it was a self-portrait, was featured in an exhibition that they had. Yeah. And that's how I met Youth Art Connection, and then it just kind of snowballed, really. Yeah.
And then with Youth Arts Connection, what did you do there?
So I worked there as a facilitator before I was hired full-time. And I worked for a project that was called Jaya, which is like Jaya. It was justice and art and, oh my God, youth in action. So we led like different, basically like kind of like really focused, they were called peace forums across the province.
What was that?
So basically I was a facilitator, but there was a team of us. It was like me and somebody named Jay Brew, who's a rapper actually, and Kelly McNeil and Ryan Veltmeyer.
Ryan is cool.
Yeah, so he was our boss, and he, got funding to do this, and so we would go to like specific locations. We went to Eskasoni, we went to Annapolis Valley as well. We did one in Halifax as well during Black History Month. That was the very first one, and they each had their own kind of focus too, like a topic focus.
What were some of the topics, if you can recall?
I remember the Black History one was really focused on like celebrating stuff that was happening, but also, unfortunately, because conversations about like street checks and police violence and all of those things we know are very real were like really prominent at the time and really starting to kick off. That ended up kind of being a lot of the scope of that project too, unintentionally.
Right.
But we were like, we can't not talk about it. And the one in Annapolis, I believe, was about gender-based violence. So we invited like people who offer services to survivors, but also it was like a lot of students as well. It was at the university there at Acadia. And I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but there was a few. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and before we continue down the music part, the sorry, arts part, let's talk a little bit about music. You know, with DJing and stuff. There's one thing listening to music, even sharing songs you love, versus okay, I'm actually going to put myself out there. Hey, what made you decide?
I would say my partner actually. So my partner, his name is DJ Fadzwa when he DJs. He is amazing and is like, I would say one of the first people in Halifax to like play Afrobeats like really, really proudly before it really got really popular, and just African music in general, and also just Black music that like isn't super mainstream. So going to those parties just like lit me up when I was younger, and I would dance my little ass off. But also, in talking to him and like getting to go to all of these events and support him as a DJ too, yeah, he like shared with me that him DJing was actually about like being able to be out in public and be involved at parties, but having a task and being able to kind of like control how people interact with you actually in a way. But also about it's really about like holding space and realizing that, and the fact that I've done that with my art for a long time, like always creating different closed spaces for Black folks or BIPOC people, or artists in general. Yeah, I was like, I want to do that with music too. So I started DJing when I worked at the Kyber actually. Luckily, they do like visual art, but also music shows and stuff. So they're really supportive.
You know, you mentioned the holding space thing, and so it's good that you brought the Kyber up because I was going to talk about, I think it was like 2020, 21. Anyway, there was this specific thing just for BIPOC folks. Why was it important for you to do that?
Because I was like, I'm tired of getting groped when I'm out and like being made a spectacle, honestly, when I'm just dancing and having a good time. It also, like, I've had a lot of friends like share experiences with me about dealing with racist bouncers or just like even like gatekeeping trying to get into events, like people not accepting their IDs, just so many things. But really, for me, it was also about like creating a space for like joy and like respite away from the white gaze, because it's, yeah, in Nova Scotia, it's hard to escape. It can make us feel like small and surveilled a lot of the time, I guess would be the right term.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where you like, you know, it happens and you kind of just push it to the back of your mind, but when it's highlighted, you're like, of course, you know.
And it was beautiful, honestly. We were all just shouting and dancing. And we also like really prioritized accessibility. So like I had a friend, for example, who has like a condition in their spine where they just need to lay down and stuff. So I was able to even like create a little like quiet space, like make over her office and make a bed for her on the floor for when she needed to take breaks. Yeah, so it's also really cool how we can be creative about supporting people to show up too.
Wow. Wow. And were you working at Kyber then? How did you get to work there and what were you doing there?
Yeah, I actually started working at Kyber and it would have been November of 2018. I had been going to events there because of my partner Tina, who introduced me, like I said. Mainly dance parties and artist talks, I would say. But yeah, I started there as a program coordinator in November of 2018 and led a bunch of different programming. I did that it was about a year and a half. And then I was like, oh, I actually like want to learn more about like how to fund like spaces so that we can do more of this, and was thinking like bigger scale too, I would say. And really wanted to support my colleague Hannah Guinan because yeah, she's been the director at Kyber for, when I was working there, it was 6 years. I'm not sure how many, it's probably 7 or 8 now.
Wow.
And she's been holding it down for a long time. So yeah, wanted to step in to learn from her and yeah.
What are some of the things you say you would have learned well?
Definitely like event coordination. I learned a lot also by like using my art to boost their promotions and stuff. I made a lot of the posters for events and like outreach stuff too.
Mm.
It also just like allowed me to make a lot of connections that I probably wouldn't have made otherwise with artists too. Like also international artists, because Kyber does artist residencies as well. So people from all over.
You know what? Something just hit my mind now. I know it's not Kyber, but like it was Obey.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this situation where like it was I think an artist came for the Obey festival and made a performance of some
I think I know.
guy's music.
Yeah. And it was a
But
white
she was
woman.
saying the words and
Yeah. It was like a white woman who had studied with and like carries on the legacy of, I can't remember the artist's name, but I know he's passed on. And he was a black man, a black gay man, I believe. I hope I'm right in that. Just the work, unfortunately, through her body, was saying, the N-word over and over again. I wasn't there, but had many friends who were in attendance. And my colleague was in attendance, so helped address that situation as well.
Yeah, I know. Like, but I mean, that's been. I knew it was handled way back then, but just mentioning that and Kyber and all that just flooded back into my mind. Anyway,
that was a time.
I mean, you being in such, I guess, situations, and how do you navigate stuff like that? Because you've been in either in leadership positions or coordinating things like that. How do you handle?
It's really tricky. The main thing is just to like be responsive. So like to not act like it's not happening.
Right.
But especially really to like listen to the people who were affected by what's happened. Like there was a black artist in that room. There weren't very many. I believe there was only one or two, if I remember correctly. So also just like thinking about how alienating that would be for that person in that room and how to prevent that from ever happening again. But also in addressing those things, it's like we can't address them in isolation. Like we have to work together to come up with those solutions. And try to think as restoratively as we can, because we also like abolition minded. So I'm like, I don't want to also like be weird and punitive, but actually just want to talk through stuff and be like, this is why it's not okay. I didn't get to be a part of that conversation specifically. Like I said, I wasn't there, but that's usually my approach.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, jumping back in time a little bit, you had this art show and that began this journey. Navigating back to just your art itself, what are some of the things that change in your creating art from that point when you did your art show till now?
I would say my medium has definitely changed and expanded a lot. Over the years, I've also gotten a few new injuries and things too, and in recent years have been struggling with a lot of chronic migraines and chronic pain. So I've been making a lot of digital art in the past few years, but I've had to slow down a bit because it causes the migraines and creates a weird cycle. So that's actually kind of where I got into making jewelry and stuff, because it's like I'm able to make things off of a screen, keep my hands busy even when I'm in pain, but it's also kind of meditative because of that and helpful. So yeah, I'm also like I feel like some of my art has become less personal, but also when I look at my art in hindsight a few months later, I'm always like, shit, that person looks like me. Which I think is a common thing for people like painters and so many artists
I'm really
too.
envious of people that can paint and stuff. And they're always telling me, everyone can paint. I don't think so. I really don't think everyone can paint, because I've tried it. You can't do it.
I think everybody can paint, honestly.
It's not gonna so there used to be this thing. I don't know if they still do it, but basically you go to this place. It's like you drink and paint thing.
Oh yeah, like a sip and paint.
And then the lady or person is in front of the thing and they're painting and you're kind of just.
Yes, I've led one of those before.
It just doesn't look like that. Like I try.
That's okay though. That's why you just have to keep trying. But also it's like you need to find your own way of painting as the thing too. It's like that's probably just not the right process your own way? For you. Like what would you want to paint, or what would you want to paint about, or like you could meditate and then create a painting based off of that, you know? It's like, yeah, that your creative process can actually be whatever you need it to be. It doesn't have to be like a painting of a sunset.
Yeah, because there was one, it was like this person holding an umbrella.
Yeah.
And then there was one that was like snowfalls in the tree. And, you know, it's they make it look so simple. Just do this and do that.
Like Bob Ross.
Yes. I'm like, no, it's not working for me. But like I can appreciate it because I know the amount of work that goes into it.
Absolutely.
And like over the years, you have this huge body of work. Does it ever, I mean, physically tired, but mentally?
I would say so for sure. Like there's definitely times when I've faced burnout and stuff, which I think is just, especially with the pandemic, bound to happen, you know? But yeah, I guess that was also part of the step towards me creating my business last year too. And stepping away from arts admin work is like I really wanted to be able to focus on my business and what I want to make and what collaborations I want to have beyond representing an institution, even if the institution's really awesome. Yeah.
I mean, you know, sometimes you have to make time for yourself. Okay, I mean, I'll get to the business part in a bit. Okay, so you make art, you love what you're doing, and some of the, I guess, the art it's like telling difficult stories. Are there things you do to prepare yourself for that? And then after you've done that, are there also things you do?
That's a really good question, actually. I feel like I make impulsively kind of a lot of the time. Like it's like sometimes it will be like I'm meditating, I'm like, and you get a juicy idea and it just comes out. But I feel like mostly it's really just like taking my time and allowing myself time to like clear my head, actually, like almost like a palate cleanse, if I can. And actually, like, yeah, I really try to also take breaks from making if I can. It's hard in this economy right now, but still really prioritizing that. Also, so I just have the energy to keep making stuff because it's like I don't want to just do the short term. I want to do it long term. So kind of trying to do it sustainably as much as I can and do self-care. And afterwards, I feel like I mostly like lean on community and ask for feedback and hope it's good. But if it's not, thank you. Then I know how to do better. Yeah, affirmation's really helpful for me.
Right. So you mentioned COVID, the pandemic, and I'm curious, right? Like, you know, we're in this weird place, it's there, it's not there, whatever. But right at the beginning, you know, when everything was shut down, how was it for you? How did you handle it? Did your art play any role in it for you?
I would definitely say so. I was working at Kyber then also. So most of my time was spent either drawing on my iPad, making my art for my business, or creating resources for Kyber because Kyber is also very responsive. I created a lot of like toolkits also and workshops online so people could like access them at any time. So I used my art to like draw basically like step-by-step little manuals of like how to make zines and put a compilation of those together. Kind of to try to do as many like online low pressure things as I could too, to also still connect with people because I knew a lot of people were also feeling isolated and really like frustrated and scared and all of these really hard emotions too. So I was like, we got to put them somewhere. Yeah.
You do really cool stuff, and then when you say things like this, I'm like, does it, I guess, get too much?
It can be sometimes, honestly, and that's when I really try to take a step back for myself, and just be real. If I'm working with people, I just really try to communicate what my like capacity is, especially. Yeah, because a lot of my work is like even the content is very emotional. Some of it can become heavy. Yeah, again, not to stay isolated is the most important part, especially.
Okay, another question that I was like, whenever I get to, I'm gonna ask you is encouraging honesty. I love the name, and just the phrase itself is just so powerful because communication is really, really, really important. But honest communication is super important.
Mhm.
So where did the encouraging honesty name come from?
To be honest, back in the day, this would be probably like 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
I had started like a WordPress website,
Oh.
and I was like, what do I want my art to do? And I was like thinking about it so much, and I was using like one of those name generator things online. And I kept like trying to think of like words, like keywords that were in my art or related to it. And encouraging honesty was one of the things that popped up based on what I typed in.
Oh.
And it just stuck. Honestly, I used it for Tumblr also back in the... Oh, it was actually Tumblr before WordPress. That might be 10 years ago now. But yeah, it just stuck, honestly. And it was actually really hard for me to make the jump to make a Bria Makes Things account because I felt so attached to the encouraging honesty, which is really funny, but it's fine now. Trying to separate the two.
Okay. So you're like, encouraging honesty is you.
Yeah.
This is my art, this is stuff, but like Bria Makes Things is your company.
Yes, so like where you can buy all the things.
All the
or
things.
Hire me, I guess.
Yeah. Talking about hiring you, I remember going to this conference and I'm like seeing you here doing something with CBC. What was the story there?
Yeah, so I was invited last August to actually like graphic facilitate and make live art during the National Black Canadian Summit, which was at the Halifax Convention Center. I believe it wasn't a week long, but it was like a few days long. Yeah, so I was there for, it was 3 days. That's what it was. So each day I drew like a graphic that encapsulated like some of the engagement that I did. So I had like a poster board where I was asking people questions and everybody could write on the Post-its and add their questions up. Yeah, and then I would put that into the art piece also. So they haven't, CBC hasn't released it yet. I think they're still working on exactly how they want to release them, but there was me and a few other awesome Black artists too. So their content will be out at some point. I don't know when or where exactly, but
yeah, no, I mean, I remember seeing you then seeing that. I'm like, I mean, your work is very beautiful, it's very expressive. But do you ever, this whole thing that some artists, not all, but at least some artists feel like, oh, my work is not that good enough. Do you ever have that issue?
I would say, yeah, for sure. Like, I feel like something I've talked about quite a bit over the years is like experiencing imposter syndrome, which I think also just living in a predominantly white province will just do to you, period. But yeah, like realizing how undervalued Black art is, like in terms of like the actual art industry, is just like was really startling. But of course makes so much sense. Even just going to places like the art gallery, like I said, yeah, they like invited me into their vaults where they store all of this like tens of thousands of pieces of art, and it's like in a refrigerator to preserve it, and we ain't in there. Like, so just, yeah, that sometimes, even if it's subconsciously, can get to you a little bit,
Yeah.
But really trying to fight that,
But then when you have the, I guess, experience of having your work being there in an exhibit in the art gallery, how does that, I guess, not like negate that or counter that, but how does that feel for you?
It was kind of a trip, I won't lie. And actually, I got to do, when I got to see those vaults would have been actually after my work was displayed, because that would have kind of been the beginning of my relationship with those folks. And then they had invited me to kind of do some like diversity consultation.
Okay, it's a good thing you mentioned that word.
So that was kind of how that played out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there is a friend of mine put up this. Ah, fuck! I should have saved it, but it was a post on Instagram, and it's a father and a child, and the father tells the child, like, I'm getting this wrong, but this is the spirit of the cartoon, right? The father tells the child, son, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be around because it's February, and I'm going to get all the work I'm going to get.
I mean, true. Jeez.
And I'm not going to have any opportunity for you. But like basically, the caption under it was like, so it's like it's February. You have to squeeze all the things you need Black people to do,
and you're gonna
then
be asked last minute, probably.
and then it's like, oh, March crickets, right? So when you mentioned diversity, that was the thing that came to mind, that cartoon. But like, what is the experience of that?
That tracks. Yeah, that is very real, and even just like support for my art was really boosted. For example, when Black Lives Matter popped off, and has really trickled down since then, which has been interesting to see. I'm like also probably partly because of the economy, of course, and people had CERB around then, so that also brought everybody was like, give me that, give me that. But yeah, I don't even know how to speak to that. I'm just like, yeah, that is very accurate. And I hate how normalized it is for us to be tokenized, and we need to fight against that however we can. Yeah.
I mean, I guess for me, it's like, first off, when I'm from Nigeria, right? Moved to Canada, great, love it. I'm not a huge fan of winter, but fine, whatever. Like, I can't speak for all the Black people, but like, I was always wondering, why is February the Black, like, I don't know many Black people that love winter and stuff. Like, couldn't have done
coldest month of the year.
made it a different month or something. I was like, and then the other thing is like, you have this, I guess, shortest month in the year, and then you have to do all these things, and the spotlight is on you, and then it's like, okay, I'll see you next February or something.
Basically,
it can be difficult. It can be difficult. But yeah, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for all the people. I'm just saying, this is like, come on.
I hear you.
Anyway, so yeah, diversity. I mean, I will say though that there are people that are doing things, but then on the other hand, there are people that are just checking boxes. Like, when you find yourself in places where you can tell, oh fuck, they're just checking a box. How do you navigate that?
I try to make them aware of that as politely as possible, usually. I've also, because I've worked as a facilitator, I've led anti-racism workshops, anti-oppression workshops. I also worked at Elizabeth Fry Society for a while, which was amazing, as a caseworker, and led an anti-racism workshop there with there was like lawyers and some probation officers even. So I was training them, which was intimidating, I won't lie. But yeah, you just got to have the conversation and be like, respectfully, no. Like, we can't proceed this way. A relationship actually looks like this.
Yeah, it's about doing that. I'm like, we came here to talk about your art. Super pretty and stuff. And one of the things that stood out for me was the Black Powerpuff Girls. What was the story here? I gotta ask. I want to start with this.
I just love cartoons, really. And I was like, you know what I don't really see very often is like Black cartoon characters or remixes of like cartoons that we love. And so I was just like, if I want it, I guess I gotta create it. I remember actually, I drew a lot of them in the winter. So a lot of those stickers, especially the Black cartoon characters, are from like paper illustrations that I would have done, quite a few years ago. I would say maybe about 8 years ago or so. Some of them are newer, mind you, but yeah, they also were like made in the winter when I was just like watching a lot of cartoons.
Another one I really love is this one.
Yeah, I was saying it all the time.
I like it's a week of not COVID. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Again.
But you know what? Like you could have just written it and it will still work. But I think what added that extra was the hand.
There's so many variations too. I even had keychains at one point, but they're all sold out. I have to make more.
and that's like when some of the things people can get from the website. What's the website again?
Yeah, my website is www.briamakesthings.bigcartel.com.
Okay, so what I want to do is like we have so many things here. We have your jewelry and stuff, but like you came with this box because it came from a market, and I was like, I need to share some of these things as much as possible. So I'm gonna get it, and then we'll be right back. Okay?
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, first off, your astrology journal
Yeah. So
story here.
that is actually a collaborative endeavor made with a friend who's a bookbinder whose business is called Mule Mother Books. So she hand binds them, and my friend Amanda, who's a astrologer and also a certified hypnotherapist too. So she made like the actual content. It basically allows you to learn about your astrological birth chart, and it's also a planner too.
Oh.
And it's dateless, so for people like me who have,
you do your thing when you want to do it.
and you get to
And
learn
I
all
guess you
about
made
yourself.
all the art inside and stuff.
Totally.
Wow. Okay.
A little collab.
Okay. Another one of these ones where it's like story here.
I was just feeling a lot of emotions. And actually, yeah, I feel like I made that when I was pretty sad, but I wanted to transform those emotions. And then I was like, oh, we need more black mermaids. Here we go.
It reminds me of what was it? The Little Mermaid controversy that happened. Do you remember?
Totally.
Like everyone lost their mind because like the mermaid that a fake thing is now black. I don't I don't understand.
That outrage
it.
was too much.
I love her.
Penny Proud. She's also from a cartoon.
So like I mean, growing up and seeing all these things and not seeing yourself versus creating these things where you see a version of yourself in there. Like how does it feel?
It feels like empowering, I would say. Like affirming too. And it also feels really, really good when I get to hear from other people their excitement. Like if somebody walks up to my table like, oh my God, that's Riley and Huey from Boondocks. I'm like, yeah. It like warms my heart. Perfect timing.
That was what I was gonna be while I pulled up next. I'm like, the fuck.
My reaction to the last minute invitations.
You know what? Like, I remember, when I found out that Regina King voices the two of them, like it blew my. I mean, I love her already, but then finding out that she does the two of them, just like
I know, I didn't realize until long after I had already watched it.
Oh,
I
man.
busted out laughing.
It's such a beautiful show. It's such a beautiful show, and like, you know what I love the most about Boondocks is that he doesn't sugarcoat things. It's like even when like as black people we have our own fuck ups too, and he's like, listen, this is one of the episodes that really talked about that was there's a few, but like the Eaters episode. Do you remember? It's like so these new restaurants came out.
Oh yes, with the
and
beds.
If you eat, it's like I'm like we should just keep this thing somewhere. But I that's what I love about it. It wasn't afraid to say, yeah, we have our own things too.
There's a lot of social commentary in that show. Like,
yeah. Okay.
I'm like, they need to make some new
so
episodes.
I remember seeing this, so I'm thinking, it's like so much said in so little. Like, how do you you're so cool. Like, how do you do that? With like so much said in.
This one was actually drawn from a photo that a friend took, and I was like, "Whoa! Can I can I draw that?" So a friend had posted to her story. Her name's Sadie Beaton, and yeah, allowed me to draw it, and it just kind of took off. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so like I said, we have so many things here.
There's a lot. Caffeine fiend. Yes, I drew. This was actually originally a sticker that I used to sell at the counter of Alter Egos when I worked there.
Oh, so Alter Ego started a lot of things. I was like, and that was your first art show and just launched all this. But like, okay, so you're creating all this, having markets and stuff. But at what point you're like, okay, I'm gonna just do my company? What was, I guess, that push for you?
I would say, like when I worked at Alter Egos, honestly, because my boss was so supportive, and also Michelle Strum, the owner of Alter Egos, like bought that building when she was 23, and yeah, is like still going strong and just a really great mentor. I'm actually in a program that she is facilitating right now.
Awesome.
To teach me how to sell my stuff wholesale and pitch my stuff to stores.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just been really supportive and a good mentor. Yeah.
It's great to have people like that in your life, right?
Big time.
And like, nothing as having people that support you through everything you're doing. Okay, yeah, I like this one too.
Yeah, for years she's just been like, you can't work for other people, Bria, just do it. Oh yes, this one was made so long ago too. This would have been one of the paintings actually that I finished for that art show, the very first one.
You know what? I don't want to say that I guessed it, but I was like, I've seen, the wall. There's this wall. Obviously, the wall. And Alter Egos with the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've seen something like this, and there's so many things in here. But I want to end with this piece. And like, when you're making it, what's going through your mind? What were you trying to create here?
I think I was really just thinking about like, yeah, making art with substance. And also I was reading a lot of Audre Lorde at the time too, was like a Black queer writer. I also would have created this piece not long after traveling to Washington, D.C. With a group of Black Nova Scotians too. We went there to meet people from Black Lives Matter there. It was like a group led by Jay Tynes, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so also was just really inspired by that trip and all the stuff I read and learned, and I was like, I need to put it into something.
And you sure did. Okay, I mean, we can spend all day just like, and this one, but I'm gonna let you go though. I know I said that was my last one, but this is my real last one. Why is making art important?
I want to say like self-expression is not only a necessity, but like our expression is a birthright. Like we have our voice, we need to use it, whether that's literally with our voice or if that has to come through our hands, Yeah, I feel like we all have a story to be told.
We do. Thank you so much, Bria. That's been awesome. I've had a great time. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. Yeah.